Welcome to Your Lot and Parcel podcast. Our mission is to emphasize the importance of preserving historic landmarks for future generations, mental health, physical well-being, and a safe family home environment. We value your monetary support. Here's your host, Benjamin F. Diaz.
Superman, Batman, Spider-Man movies are reliable box office hits. For good reason, my guest says. Americans just can't get enough of superheroes who, at their heart, are all about helping humanity. But superheroes are not merely great entertainment, he says, but they are a great role model for you and I. He authored the book, Unsung Heroes Wear No Capes, 12 Essential Virtues for an Extraordinary Life. And incidentally, the book can be found at jimbnorth.com. Again, Jim, B as in Bravo, north.com. And here he is, the illustrious Jim North. Thank you, Jim, for coming on Your Lot and Parcel show. I appreciate you taking time to visit with me. And I think what you have to say is very important in that we're going to be talking about the human condition. And I think it's something that we need to talk about more so, especially in these times we're living in. I'll tell you what. But before we get into our topic, tell us a little bit about you, Jim, and your mission, if you would, please.
Okay. Well, it's really nice to meet you, Ben, and I really appreciate the purpose of your show and what you're all about. And I just feel like, what I have to share fits in with what you're all about. So that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
My background, I have some background in the corporate world and management and leadership. But that came to an end in an abrupt way, and I had to redirect my life, and I chose to do that through journalism and professional writing. And I also have quite a bit of background in some areas of service and leadership. And so I've been a pastor, I've been a kids pastor, and I kind of really think of myself that way, frankly, because the reason I feel that way is that I really want to be a lifter of people. And I want to be a person that cares about people. And I want to be a person that cares about what people have to offer that often goes underneath the radar.
Right.
Because people don't really always get the applause or the credit for things they do. And I think that they should do them anyway and realize that they matter. And people's lives matter far more, really, than they often give themselves credit for. So really, I want to elevate that. And that's kind of what my purpose is all about, what my book is all about that I recently published.
Very good. And I'm with you many times. There's some, I wouldn't say everybody in general, but many look for notoriety, they want to be recognized for this or that. But I think we all have an obligation, Jim, to help the other. And I think that's where you are coming from. And I guess that makes sense with the title of your book, Unsung Heroes Wear No Capes. I'm assuming that's where you're coming from, right?
That's exactly where I'm coming from. And really, it's comprised of a few layers. So, the first one being the character values and essentials and qualities. They can be called many different things. I call them virtues on the cover of the book. Because there's something that you choose. You make those your own. They're values actively engaged, because a value exists, but a virtue takes that and makes it your own. And you do that as a way of life. So whether that's love or honesty or courage or hope or optimism, friendship, these are things that we have to choose. So they make the most difference. And how do they make the most difference? They make the most difference by being willing to be an unsung hero, which is truly, in its simplest form, a helper.
I agree with
hero
you.
is a helper. It's not a person on a pedestal. It's a person willing to not be on a pedestal and still do the things they do without any applause, but for the benefit of other people around you.
Exactly. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I know you speak about 12 virtues in your book. May I ask, what would you say the three top virtues might be?
Well, I mean, I start in chapter 1 on love because, it's a word we use so many ways so often. And so, really, I use the chapter to set the
Mhm.
stage, set the tone,
Right.
because if you really have love as a primary motive, then you are going to be an honest person because you'd never lie about someone if you love them. And also, you would never provide encouragement to someone else or have courage without having love as the foundation of that. And
Mm.
so, I would say love is number one. I would say friendship is a huge one because we're all connected in some way and we don't get anywhere in life without friends. I don't care how much a person has achieved. They could have achieved the greatest wealth in the world, the most fame in the world, and they never get there alone. They had help along the way. They had people that believed in them. So
Mhm.
I would say friendship is a big one. And I would say growth. My final chapter is on growth. It's how we take all of these
Mhm.
and and personify them in our own lives so that the result is number one, we care about the growth of others
Mm.
first. And in that, I find my own growth. So, for example, and I'll let you
All right.
ask what you want to ask here, but I just conclude this thought by saying, even if you're the owner of a company and you have hundreds of employees, you want the growth of those people. You want the growth, the culture to allow, like a greenhouse. You
Mhm.
want it to thrive. You don't want to just go clean house and, everyone's afraid when you walk in the room. So growth is an important one also.
I think so. And the first virtue you indicated, love. I think there's an interconnection of the other two with the first principle that you indicated. And of course, love. I mean, we're talking about the responsibility that we have toward others. I think is what you're talking about. Um, in fact, it's an appeal to humanity. I think, and love, like I said, it's. I think that's where that is the foundation. I think, and it's interesting you started with that. So I appreciate that, Jim. Um, so would you say that most people have the potential to live extraordinarily with these principles, these virtues, these 12 virtues that you speak of?
I absolutely do. I think
Okay.
that it behooves us to make good choices. Like, in my life,
Mhm.
I can choose one primary thing. We have a lot of offshoots of choices, but
Yes.
what is the primary thing? What is the thing that you're going to gear your whole life around? And love is a worthy one
Mhm.
because it will take the lid off all of your potential. So you could be a person that is highly skilled in the most amazing ways. But if that is not channeled in the right way, it will be far less effective. So you ask, do I believe everyone can do that? I absolutely do. And I liken this, I go to the superheroes,
Mhm.
Spider-Man, Superman, Batman.
Yes.
And the reason I do that is these are normal people. Clark Kent's a normal guy. He
That's right.
turns to Superman in the phone booth, right? And
Mhm.
how does he transform like that? It's
Mhm.
through his disposition to serve and help other people. Who's in distress? Well, he's on the way. And when he's on the way, his own superpowers become unleashed. So I say that all of us have this potential, but sometimes we have it living under the radar and we don't even understand the power that we have in us to change the world around us.
Mhm. I agree with you. It's we all have that. I think it's a matter of cultivating it, being aware of it, and step in when it is called for it, Jim. In today's world, it's called for it many times around. That you can help others. But Yeah, I can see these are the elements, and I think, like, as you indicated, there's an interconnection, starting with love, and everything else follows that. You say those 12 virtues you speak of. I'm sure. I mean, without love, you can't have friendship, right? That you indicated.
Right.
Yeah, without love, you can't help another person grow. Is another thing. So it starts with that principal quality of love. Um, and you also speak about the importance of recognizing those small moments as magnificent. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I can. I think of a story, of a
Mm-hmm.
girl named Renee who was in two Black Friday car crashes 3 years
Oh,
apart.
oh, wow.
And she's a young theater student at the time. Her story is in my book.
Mm-hmm.
And she was thrown out of the vehicle. Now I'm talking about the second crash because she almost died in both.
Mm,
But there she was laying on the frozen ground, and she picked up snow and was holding it in the palm of her hand. She couldn't move. But here she is. Life is reduced down to this small moment of time. You asked about moments.
mm-hmm.
And life for her slowed down to a moment. And I say that all of us, have these moments.
Right.
Moments of crisis can become moments of decision, and they become the impetus for how we will go forward. So at the moment of crisis is the moment of decision, is the moment of strengthening or weakening, depending what we decide. So
Mm-hmm.
she's holding snow in the palm of her hand, playing with it.
Mm,
She's terribly injured, and she's playing with snow in the palm of her hand. It's like, what? And then instead of being selfish and only thinking about her own needs,
mm,
she could only think about the needs of her friends who were also hurt. And she found it in that moment to pray to God that her friends would not die.
mm,
She didn't ask God if, she wouldn't
right.
die.
Right.
She prayed a prayer that they would live. And I found that remarkable, to take that moment of time that you have and to use that moment to reach out to someone else that's hurting. So
Mm,
I say that each day of our lives, there are many moments. Look for the few moments in each day that you can turn that into a positive. Because
yes.
these character virtues, they don't wait for opportunities, they create opportunities.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's quite true, Jim. Um, so that was a real, I mean, that was surreal, a very surreal moment for her, but she had the wherewithal to think about her friends in lieu of herself. So that I can see what you're saying. Those moments are moments of magnificence. Yeah, that really comes through. Your love comes through for those that you care for. You talked about crisis. I don't know if you've ever heard this or not, Jim, but in Chinese, crisis comes with two symbols. One is one symbol means just that, crisis. The other symbol means opportunity.
Hmm.
Isn't that great? I think
I love that. I
every
truly love
culture,
it.
every culture seems to have that philosophy, and I think that was her opportunity, this young lady, to think about her friends and, like you indicated, to pray. What an
Yes.
opportunity! It was appropriate.
Yes. And then interestingly, if I can just add a few more
Sure,
thoughts
please.
to that, is that someone did come along to help her,
Hmm.
someone she least expected. And it truly was an unsung hero because it was a nurse.
Oh,
What are
wow,
the odds that a person that
wow,
came by and saw her on the street motionless
yeah, yeah.
would be a nurse?
Hmm.
And Renee wanted to go to sleep. She said, no, you can't. You cannot go to sleep. Don't do it. And so she kept her awake until help came. And that nurse became an unsung hero. Now, was that in the news? No.
No, imagine not.
But did that matter and count in this life for something? Yes, she saved Renee's life,
Absolutely. Yeah.
whether she ever gets any applause for that or not.
Yeah. I think there's so many things that do happen that are not a coincidence, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that account you related to me.
You are listening to Your Lot and Parcel podcast. Please tell a friend and support the educational program by leaving us a rating or review. We thank you in advance.
We are spending time with the author of Unsung Heroes Wear No Capes, 12 Essential Virtues for an Extraordinary Life. And he's telling us, when you and I are determined to serve others, you are not mild-mannered but bold and will unleash your own hidden superpowers for the sake of others. The book, incidentally, can be found at jimbnorth.com. Again, Jim, B as in Bravo, north.com. And the link can also be found in the show notes. Let's get back with Jim North. Any other inspiring stories you would share with us that you've met of remarkable people along the way?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I think of Senator Kevin Matthews. Now, he's a senator here in the state of Oklahoma, and he grew up in Greenwood, Oklahoma. Now, not everyone has heard of Greenwood, but it was a district on the north side of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And have you heard of Greenwood, Ben?
I'd mentioned to you, I think, the other day that I do have a friend that lives or comes from your area there. Norman, I believe, did talk about Greenwood.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greenwood in Tulsa is about 2 hours from here.
All right.
But most people really don't know what happened in Greenwood in 1921, but Kevin Matthews does.
Okay.
And so he was driven by this story of tragedy to become eventually, it drove him, the primary motivation of love in this regard inspired him to become an Oklahoma senator. And I'll tell you why that matters in a minute. But he grew up in Greenwood. Now, in 1921, Greenwood was a thriving area in Tulsa, comprised of African Americans. And it was so prosperous of an area that Booker T. Washington at the time called it Black Wall Street. Very prosperous. They were doing so well, and we're talking about after the Emancipation Proclamation and the Civil War and after Reconstruction and all of that, there was such racial divide anyway. And it's so sad. So Black Wall Street was a thriving area. And there's a story of how a black shoe shiner in downtown Tulsa was accused of a rape inside of an elevator of a downtown Tulsa building of a white girl named Sarah Page. And it was an allegation. It didn't happen. Sarah Page later said he touched her elbow. Well, for some reason, he ran out of the elevator and was accused of a rape. And before long, there's a confrontation of thousands of whites gathered around the courthouse demanding that this man be punished. And his name was Dick Rowland. So from Greenwood came about 75 African Americans to be sure that he was not going to be lynched. And this is a lesson in honesty and hope. This is not an honest way of dealing with people, and there were tragic consequences from it. But so the white people pursued the blacks to Greenwood. They set Greenwood on fire. It burned to the ground, hundreds of blocks, hundreds of buildings and businesses and homes.
Oh, wow.
By the time it was finished, there was nothing left of Greenwood. And that's the Tulsa race riot of 1921.
Hmm.
So the story of it is in my book. My conversation with Senator Kevin Matthews is in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's a riveting story of hope. And hope is an essential for us all, is it not? I mean, who doesn't appreciate hope?
Mm-hmm.
No one wants their hope taken away.
No.
And when it's taken away, you know it.
Yeah.
So he went on to be an Oklahoma senator, and now that area has a historic monument, and $30 million was raised just 1 or 2 years ago to help with that area and make it better. It's not ever going to be quite like it was before. And I don't want to go too far with that because I know you're under some time constraints, but the story's in my book. It's an inspiring story of hope. Oklahoma Senator Kevin Matthews.
Mm-hmm. And you say he was from that area there, apparently.
He was raised in Greenwood.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in Greenwood knows the story of Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
And more, for 50 years, no one knew about that story because it was kept under wraps.
Interesting. But it's true. I mean, there's lots of, things like that do happen. Tragic things like that, and you talk about hope. Myself, I play with words a little bit, Jim. I always say that if you don't have, without hope, you can't cope.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's a mantra that I've used for a long time. You got to have
hope. That, Ben.
You got to have hope, I'm telling you. And, it's not limited to what happened there in Greenwood. I mean, all over the world, you see these issues going on. I understand you studied international reporting at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. So what seems to be the problem over there, Jim, with the Israelis and the Palestinians? What's the core issue?
Well, it's so complicated.
Oh, my goodness.
It's like, I spent 5 weeks over there, and I have dozens of hours of interviews with Israeli leaders, Palestinian leaders. And so, even after all of that, there's no simple way to describe this because it's not only centuries old, it's thousands of years old.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about two groups of people that are trying to live in one small piece of land. And the implications and the complexity of that is so far reaching. So there's another story in my book about Nir Sarusi, who in the downtown center of Jerusalem, there's a creative solution going on there. These are two cultures living in one small location. And plus there's people from all around the world that go there all the time.
Yes.
And in the center of the city is Music Square. And Nir Sarusi is a world-renowned violinist who plays there. And it's just an example of using his creativity to bring people together because despite the fact that this is a hot item over there between the Israelis and Palestinians, he finds a way to cross the divide and bring people together. And in Music Square, every single day, people gather from all ethnicities. And it's a real place of peace where not only he plays, but musicians, dozens of musicians every week come. And the real purpose of it is to really be a microcosm of hope and peace in the region.
Well, I can see how that would help because music is universal, Jim. Yeah, I can see that where that would mollify the nervous system there, But I'll tell you what, you said thousands of years this has been going on. I agree with you. Even in biblical history, Ishmael and Isaac, they couldn't get along. And of course,
that's true.
The descendants of Ishmael are the Arab folk, right? And of course, Isaac are the Hebrew folks. So it's something. In fact, I think your book needs to be translated into Arabic and Hebrew there.
Oh, well, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, I think they could use it over there. I'm telling you. I know there's a dispute of land and a lot of discontentment there. But
Mhm.
tell you what, they have to understand that I believe that if we go far back enough, we are all related, Jim. Right?
Yes, we are, Ben.
Yeah. So I think we need to get down to thinking in those terms. And I think that first quality you indicated at the outset, principle of love, I think that is heavily needed in that region specifically. Uh,
Certainly.
yeah, no kidding. You speak of also you have workshops that you offer. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I'm just trying to position
Mm-hmm.
this to where, companies can benefit and raise the level of the culture in their organization or business. Because,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I came out of a situation where I lost a job that I had for decades. It was
Mm.
because the culture was bad
Oh,
and the leadership. And I'm not trying to be mean saying this,
sure, sure,
but
I
the
understand.
culture was bad and the leadership was bad. And there's never a good reason to exercise that kind of leadership where the result is the destruction of the people that make it move and make it go. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I can go into an organization or a company and I just believe elevate, recognize. It was suggested to me that,
Sure.
hey, your unsung heroes concept, you
Mm.
maybe should have some unsung hero awards for companies or organizations.
Sure, sure.
So what could I do? Yeah, I could go into a company and I could do research and really understand what makes that company tick, the relationships, the people, the history, what drives the company, and really perhaps do some unsung hero awards. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
number of possibilities, but I want to be a builder of teams and leadership. And so
Right.
that's what I hope to do. These character essentials, they apply not only in our lives singularly, but they
Right.
also apply in families and companies and
Oh,
organizations and
absolutely.
sports teams and any kind of team. Because like you said, we're all connected
Yes, we are.
and it's best to take advantage of that and leverage it and not let it
Yeah. Yeah.
defeat. We've all seen companies that have failed or teams that have failed, and it's because of the failure of some of these things. What is the kryptonite for Superman?
Mm-hmm.
It's selfishness.
Yeah.
Whenever in the movie episodes, and I'll wrap this thought, uh, the episodes where he gets weak, it's where he made a self
Yeah. Yeah.
decision. So it's always back to love. And whenever Superman righted the ship, it's because he got his head back on straight and his heart right. Said, you know what? I'm about doing what's good and beneficial to others.
Yeah.
And when he got that part right, everything else fell into place.
Absolutely. You talk about the culture at the where people work on a daily basis. The culture, it can be difficult. Probably explains why all my adult life, Jim, I have been self-employed, and I couldn't handle the culture. And of course, there are employers that do well for their employees and so forth. I'm not broad and brushing it, but from what I've been able to observe, I think I'll stay self-employed for a while yet.
Well, I admire that, Ben. And I
Mhm.
think that speaks to who you are because obviously you're character driven, or you
Mhm.
wouldn't be doing what you're doing. And
Mhm.
that has kept you grounded.
Yep,
It's
I
kept
think
you
so.
steady. You're self employed for a reason. It's because you want to live out the kind of values that make you who you are. And I can relate with what you're saying
Mhm.
because not all companies,
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, can you fit into and expect the
Mhm.
reciprocation of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I can see why. you're doing what you're doing, and I admire it greatly.
Yeah, well, I've always valued, the responsibility, been a dad, I'm a granddad today, and I've always I've had a home office so that I can always be there for them, you see. So I right now I'm at retirement age. They're all grown and gone, but I still have a home office. So, I'm still here for them, or for
That's
anyone.
great.
Or, for anyone that needs a little bit of help, someone to talk to. I
Hmm.
think I think we need more of that, and I think your book lends itself. It is conducive to encouraging others to do that, and I think it's a great thing. Before I let you go, Jim, would you share some encouraging words for those that are having to forge themselves through every day? Some words of encouragement. What would you
So,
say?
can you repeat that one, Ben? I had a hard time hearing the entire sentence.
Before I let you go, could you share some words of encouragement for those that are struggling today and trying to get through everyday responsibilities? The job situation is not what it should be. There's so many things that go along with that, inflation, and just people are having a heck of a time today. Any words of encouragement?
Absolutely. I think for one, what I hope my book will do was help a person like you're
Hmm.
talking about look at their life in the present and look back all the way and gather the things that have helped you the most. Who are the unsung heroes that helped you the most? What are the pieces of your life that you gather and say, you know what? I really appreciate this and this and this. And I want people to gather the gemstones in their life that maybe they've forgotten. Take the valuable things and realize the worth of them, that it makes you who you are. And then take all of that and look toward the future. What is the through line? What
Hmm.
is the way I can raise the level? And I really hope to get the blinders off. Now, I'm not saying people that we're blind, but I do think sometimes we have blind spots
I think so.
that we can actually see better.
Hmm.
Who can I help today? I want people to raise their vision like Superman did or Batman did.
There you go.
Who can you help? I want people to think about taking their life and just making someone else's life better. You can do that with all 12 of those virtues.
Hmm.
If a person got to the end of their life and all they had to do or practice was love, courage, honesty, friendship, optimism, hope, diligence, creativity, gratitude, faithfulness, mercy, and growth, if you practice them,
Hmm.
would you have a fulfilled, extraordinary life? And I believe the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
And that actually, if you practice those core values more, that would actually raise your achievement level. And I think sometimes people have it reversed and they want the achievement level, but not the character essentials that actually get you there.
Hmm.
And I use this as a case in point, that there are famous people in our society. We think they gained the whole world. And sometimes they lose even, to even take their own life. So
Yeah.
what that means is the externals don't matter as much as the internals.
Hmm.
And that we need to practice love as a primary through line to the future. And when
Exactly.
you look back and you practice these things because they're good and they're right and they're beneficial to others, you'll realize that, your life mattered and gave you fulfillment in a way that nothing else can.
Hmm.
So I want people to realize their life matters far more than they thought. There's things they do that maybe they haven't given themselves credit for, and they should.
That's true. We get so bogged down, Jim, so bogged down with the mundane things of this world, making a living and just all kinds of different things. But I think, yeah, I agree with you. We all have intrinsic value. We all of us do. It's just a matter of building on that, building on what we already have, and things will be better for you. I think so. And
well, we were made to fly, Ben.
No kidding. I think
we were made to soar.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we were made to do that. And I think the thing about these 12 essential character virtues is that they will help us soar higher and farther than anything else will.
I think so. Moral excellence is what that is. So that's great. Jim, I want to thank you for spending time with me and sharing these thoughts. I think we do need to talk more about these things because, folks, from my perch, I can see many people just lost and not able to find the answers, the real meaning of life, in other words, okay? So I think you're on the right track. You are on the right track. So I thank you for coming on Your Lot and Parcel, Jim, and I wish you continued success, my friend.
Thank you so much, Ben. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. The theme music has been provided by Echo Foxtone. All the opinions expressed in the podcast are opinions only and should not be relied on. We hope you will join us in supporting home and family through your monetary funding. For more information, please visit yourlotandparcel.org.